There's a particular silence that makes people uncomfortable. It's the silence of the person at the table who isn't talking. The group is loud, the conversation is moving fast, and there's that one person who's just there, listening, not contributing. And you can watch the rest of the table start to fill in a story about them. They're shy, they're bored, they're judging us. Something's wrong. Someone will eventually turn to them and say it, half joke, half accusation. You're quiet today. As if quiet were a deviation, a problem that needs explaining. But here's what that table has wrong. For a lot of quiet people, the silence isn't something happening to them. It's not an absence of words they're failing to produce. It's a choice, a constant, invisible one. And the logic behind that choice is far more interesting than shy could ever capture. To understand the quiet person, you have to stop asking why they aren't talking and start asking a better question. What do they think talking is for? Because that's where the real divide is. For a large number of people, talking is not primarily about transferring information. Talking is the connection. The words are almost beside the point. What matters is the back and forth, the warmth of the volley, the sound of voices overlapping. The content is the vehicle. The contact is the destination. These people think by speaking. The sentence forms as it leaves their mouth. Conversation for them is how thought gets made. Quiet people are usually wired the other way around. For them, the thought forms first, fully internally turned over once or twice, and only then, if it still seems worth saying, does it become speech. They are not slow. They are not blank. There is often an enormous amount happening in there. It's just that, for them, a sentence has to earn its way out. It has to clear a bar. And in a fast conversation, by the time a thought has cleared that bar, the moment for it has already passed, and the group has moved 3 topics on. So the quiet person isn't failing at the conversation. They're playing a different game with different rules. A game where you don't say the thing until the thing is ready. And this is where the misreading does real damage. Because a fast talker watching a quiet person genuinely cannot tell the difference between I have nothing to say and I have something to say, but it isn't finished yet. From the outside, those two states look identical. Both are just silence. So the fast world assumes the simpler explanation. The quiet person is empty, or nervous, or not very bright. And here's the cruel part. Quiet people are often acutely aware that this is the assumption being made about them. They know the silence is being read as a deficit. Many of them have been told since childhood, in 100 small ways, that they should be more, speak up more, come out of your shell, as if the shell were a flaw and not a feature. There's a quiet cost to that. A lot of people who don't talk much carry a low background sense that the way they naturally are is slightly wrong, that they're a more reserved edition of a person who was supposed to be louder. And so some of them spend years performing a more talkative version of themselves, exhausting themselves to meet a standard that was never actually a standard. It was just the preference of the louder majority, mistaken for a rule. But here's the part worth slowing down for, because it flips the whole thing. The quiet person's restraint isn't a lack of a skill, it's the presence of one. Consider what they're actually doing in that loud room. They're listening, properly listening, not just waiting for a gap to jump into. They're tracking who said what, who contradicted themselves, who went quiet when a certain subject came up, what the room is actually feeling underneath what it's saying. While the fast talkers are generating, the quiet person is receiving, and you cannot do both at full volume at once. The reason they're not adding to the noise is that they're busy doing the thing the noise makes impossible, paying attention. This is why quiet people so often have a strange kind of authority when they finally do speak. You've seen it. The person who says almost nothing for an hour and then says one sentence and the whole room turns. It lands harder because it's rare. They've spent the whole conversation building credit by not spending it. Their words are worth more because they don't flood the market with them. Silence used this way isn't the opposite of communication. It's what gives communication its weight. And there's something else the quiet person tends to understand that the talkative world often forgets, that not every thought needs to be spoken, and not every silence needs to be filled. A fast talker often experiences a pause in conversation as a small emergency, a hole that has to be plugged. The quiet person experiences that same pause as completely fine, comfortable, even. They don't feel the gap as failure. They can sit inside a silence with another person and feel closer for it, not more awkward. To them, 2 people who can be quiet together have reached a level of ease that 2 people constantly talking never quite touch. So the quiet person isn't a conversation with the sound turned down. They are running a different operating system entirely, one where words are precious rather than constant, where listening outranks broadcasting, where a thought is something you finish before you share, and where silence is not a void to escape, but a space that's allowed to exist. The world will keep telling them to talk more. Some of that is worth listening to. There are things only speech can do, bridges only words can build, and a quiet person who never reaches across the gap can end up unknown even by the people who love them. The goal was never total silence, but the goal was never constant noise either. And the quiet person already knows the secret that the loud world spends a lifetime missing, that being understood was never about the number of words. It was always about the right ones, offered at the right moment, by someone who was paying enough attention to know the difference. The quiet ones aren't waiting to be fixed. Most of them, underneath the world's noise about it, are simply waiting to be understood by someone patient enough to notice that the silence was full the whole time.